Okay, now we're starting to get to the really important stuff. And there are 4 elements, and I'm going to make a video for each element, but there are 4 elements that you need to get into sync to have a successful magazine. The 4 elements are, quite simply, layout and design, in other words, the visual experience; content, in other words, the emotional experience; circulation or reach, in other words, somebody's got to be reading it; and frequency, in other words, to build up your brand equity, you've got to bring out the magazine as often as possible. So, those are the 4 major elements that need to be in sync for you to have a successful magazine. Those are the 4 things you need to concentrate on to have a successful magazine. I'm going to say them again: layout and design, content, reach, circulation in other words, and frequency. You've got to put out a magazine pretty often. And as I say, I'm going to give you a video on each and every one of them, but take a pen, write them down, and we'll discuss them in detail in further videos, etc. Very briefly though, so layout and design is the visual experience, it's the personality of the publication, and it's adapted to your reader. For example, a law magazine would have more writing than visuals, as opposed to a fashion magazine, for example. Fashion magazine would have a huge amount of visuals and very little writing, etc. And the design would be more simplistic, and so on. So what you've got to do is you've got to have a trick. The problem is you can't, even if you have a serious magazine like our Businesswoman magazine, you can't just have lots of writing and this and that. You've got to have strong, powerful visuals. So layout and design it's what fonts you are using, and you've got to have a uniformity, because the uniformity leads to the personality of the publication. So you've got to have a uniformity of fonts, etc. As I've said previously, if it's a rainy day and there's a page of your magazine which has been torn out, lying in the gutter, as you're jogging down the road in the rain, and you turn and you look at that page, without knowing or without seeing what magazine it's from, just looking at the layout and design, you should know what magazine it's from. And you should know generally what the subject criteria is of that magazine, or the personality or character of the reader. This is vitally important. The second thing is content. Content is made up of only 2 things: words and pictures. There's nothing else to content. Words and pictures. Focus on those 2 things. Remember, content is king. That is what really draws in your reader, and that's what really delivers a spectacular product. Is if you have stories and things that stay in the mind of the reader all long after they've read it. We've written some articles about businesswomen who have been through the most horrendous experiences in business, etc. And when you read these articles, you almost want to just cry. You just want to break down in tears and cry, and that's just, it's so important. So content, and then your third is reach, in other words, circulation. You know what, if your magazine is not being read by the right people, then your advertiser is not going to sell product, your content is not going to resonate with the right people, etc., etc. I don't create a Businesswoman magazine and send it to a motor mechanic, you know what I mean? Unless it's a woman motor mechanic, for that reason. But your reach and your circulation has got to be good. You can't waste money on printing and just shotgun effect and just hand out a magazine at robots or something stupid like that. I mean, I've heard of people with these bright ideas, but I promise you, you've got to define your reader and your circulation, and you've got to get that reach. You've got to find ways of getting magazines into the hands of those readers. You have to. Otherwise your magazine will go nowhere. And then your last, of course, is your frequency. You have to decide up front how often you're going to be bringing this magazine out. If you're going to bring it out, if you can only get it out quarterly, just have a look at what your capacity is. And essentially, it's just how long does it take you to sell enough ads to put out a decent magazine. You know, a 24 pager or a 32 pager, etc. That's not a magazine, man. That's ridiculous to think that's a magazine. You need a proper 96+4, 96 pages of text and a 4-page cover. And of that, you've got 50 ads and you've got 50 pages of actual content. That's what you need. So essentially, frequency is how long will it take me to sell 50 ads? Because as long as it takes me to sell 50 ads, I've got to work out a way of doing my production in that same period of time. And if I can do it quickly, if it's in a very aggressive, very volatile, very exciting or moving industry, then you know, like tourism, for example, or something like that, then I can do a monthly magazine. If it's in a less precise, like it's an architectural magazine, or it deals with some specific science or something like that, then maybe you do it quarterly. But you've got to stick to whatever deadlines you set for yourself. Frequency is so important. If people see a magazine and then don't see the next issue for a long time, and they're going, where's the next edition, where's the next edition, etc., then you lose your brand equity. People start forgetting about the brand equity. You've got to be in their face all the time with a fresh issue. And only by doing that do you build up the equity of it. Anyway, we're going to do separate videos for each of these things. Have a great day and happy publishing.